Today I'm going to lead you through a series for stabilizing and strengthening the hips. Now, these exercises are really good to target specifically the hips, the glutes, the area that supports your low back. If you have any low back pain or a tendency to get cranky in the low back, these exercises are going to ensure that everything is strong and supportive in the pelvic area so that your low back pain will ease away. So we're going to begin by laying down on our sides. So coming into a comfortable position, you can have your hand supporting your head like so, or resting down on your arm, or placing a pillow here. You're going to bend both your knees so they're at about a 45-degree angle, and you want your pelvis to be nice and upright. So making sure that that hip is not falling back, it's not rolling forward, but it's stacked right on top. And we're going to engage your core, so feel your belly drawing in and up, and think about a little bit of space right underneath of your waist. So we're nice and pulled up tight. And then from here, you're going to lengthen your top leg out, pressing your foot to the wall away from you. So it's nice and strong. And then we're slowly going to lift the leg up and down, keeping that leg straight in line with your hip. Make sure it's not going too far forward or too far back. And just slow little lifts here, keeping that leg truly parallel. And we're going to breathe into every movement. Imagine that somebody is lengthening your leg away from your hip socket. So here we're targeting the medial glutes, the outer hip. This is good for hip stability. We're going to work to do about 10 of each movement, but if that feels like too much, you can do less. If you feel like you're not getting enough activation, you can do more. So we want to feel like we're activating this targeted area here on the side of the hip. One more. Good. Then we're going to bend the knees, placing them right on top of each other again. And now here we're going to move into the clamshell. So working on external rotation of the femur bone inside the hip socket. So we open the knee up to the sky, keeping the hip still, and then gently closing it down with control. Again, inhale, open it up, and exhale, close with control. Make sure when you open and close that you're moving slow. Imagine like you're moving through honey and you're not letting that knee flop down. You're going to really start to feel this one more in the back of the hip, in the glute area. This is targeting your deep rotator muscles. Really try not to cheat here and let your hip wiggle backwards, but use your core muscles to keep that hip still. A couple more. Last one. Great. Now we're going to roll onto our backs and go into some glute bridges. Don't worry, we're going to do the other side in a moment. So your feet are about hips distance apart. Make sure they're not too wide and they're planted right beneath your knees. We're going to take your core and zip it up and then gently press your arms into the floor, widening your shoulders back onto the floor. Press into your feet and gently lift your pelvis up to the sky, engaging your glutes, and lower down. So here we're going to keep your pelvis neutral. So we're not going to tuck the pelvis and roll up the spine, but instead we're going to keep it really stable and neutral because this is about hip stability here. So lifting up as far as you can, maintaining that neutral pelvis, and then gently lower down. And again, lifting up and lower down. Now, for an added challenge, I'd like you to think about pressing your feet down and then dragging your feet up towards your head. So, like you're pulling your heels towards your head. That's going to turn on your hamstrings and your glutes even more. And then gently touch down. And again, lifting up, pull your heels towards your head and lower down. Couple more here, lifting up and lower down, lifting up and lower down. Great. Now we're going to roll to the other side and continue with the lateral hip movement. So stacking your knees on top of each other, your hips nice and stacked. Shoulders are easy, your head is resting in a comfortable position. Lengthening that leg out, and then we gently lift up and down, targeting the side of the hip, the medial glutes. You can have your hand here in front of you for some extra balance, or you can have your hand on your hip. Sometimes it's nice to actually touch your hip to remind yourself not to wiggle forward and back. Feeling the length and the energy in your leg as it lengthens away to come up and away to come down. Breathing as we lift and breathing as we lower. It doesn't need to go very high, but moving slow with control. The slower the move, the more challenging and beneficial it's going to be. A couple more here. Remember, these movements are really great for supporting your low back. Good. Now we'll stack the knees on top of each other, keeping the hips still and moving into the clamshell. So opening your knee up to the sky and lower down. And again, opening up. Think about spiraling your femur bone externally and lower down. This one you're really going to feel those deep rotators turn on and lower down. Again, opening up and lower. Working for 10 in each of these movements. But if you can't quite make 10, then don't worry, you can build up to it. I'd rather you work with more quality of movement than quantity of movement. So even 3 really good clamshells is better than 10 not so good ones. One more here. Nice. Now we're going to turn over onto your front. We're going to do another type of glute activation. So placing your hands on top of each other, letting your forehead rest down gently. Your legs are stretching and actively reaching back behind you. Think about your tailbone dropping down so your lower belly zips up. Now I'm going to gently lengthen my right leg away from me, keeping the leg parallel as you gently lift it up to the sky and then lower down. And again, think about someone pulling your leg away from you and then lift it up just a teeny bit, keeping your knee completely straight. Now here you should feel your bum muscle, your glutes, and the upper hamstrings turn on and lower down. So we're going to do 10 little teeny lifts here and lower and lifting up and lower and lifting up. Continue to lengthen your tailbone down so it doesn't get crunchy in the low back. Keeping your neck long and your shoulders soft. Again, these movements are really targeted and isolated. So tuning in and imagining the muscles that you're feeling. One more here.
Good. Now other side. Lengthen the left leg away from you and reach it up gently for 1 and lower. Lengthen and lift for 2 and lower. Lengthen and lift for 3 and continuing on, feeling that upper glute, upper hamstring turning on, lengthening the low back, keeping your knees straight. If the knees bend, you're not going to target the glutes as much. Keeping your hip bones glued to the floor, making sure they're equally pressing down into your mat. One more here. Good. Now we're going to finish by coming back onto our backs, and we're going to do the glute bridges again because glute bridges are always a good idea. So same as before, finding your setup, engaging your core. We're going to lift up and lower down. And again, lift up, keeping the pelvis neutral. Remember the cue, thinking about dragging your heels towards your face and down. Good. So we've done a couple more like this. Now we're going to hold it here and stay. Try to feel those glutes turn on. Your ribs are soft. Now we're going to hold this shape. Don't let your bum drop down. And we're going to gently lift one leg off the floor, bending the knee and lower down. And other side, hold and lower down. Again, lift and lower with control. Lift and lower with control. One more on each side. And then press the pelvis up one more time. Drag the heels into your head one more time. And slowly release down. Good job. Hug your knees into your chest and take a couple deep breaths there. Okay, good work. So there is a simple but very effective routine for hip stability and isolated hip strength that you can do anytime, especially if you are working with a low back injury or you're rehabbing some low back stuff or you just want to ensure you have nice, healthy, strong hips to support your body.